Now, we have reached the conclusion of our story, a tale of great victory. Let us see how the democratic coalition of Pato crushes the evil Wolcatians once and for all.
Operation Lumberjack was a detailed military operation in which the plucky, independent coalition of Pato beat back the authoritarian Wolcatian Empire. For this reason, it is considered to be the main motivator for democratic nations and a symbol that the will of the people will always outshine the perceived righteousness of empires. Now, let's first talk about why Operation Lumberjack was named such.
The national symbol of Wolcatia is the tree, a strong and arrogant force in the face of democracy. Despite most Wolcatians saying that this tree is a neutral symbol, the truth tells a different story. Its origins were formed by Wolcatia's nobility planting trees on conquered territories to cement their power. For this reason, their trees deserve a lumberjack. A lumberjack is someone who cuts down trees so they can be repurposed into something much, much better. For that reason, we are cutting down the arrogant Wolcatian tree and turning the People's Kingdom into a nation ready for democratic reform.
Well, why did we believe war was necessary? At first, we didn't. We simply sanctioned the Wolcatian government and worked against their empire. We even encouraged the British to change their allegiance, making it less explicitly pro-Wolcatia and more in favor of fighting the Soviets. The Wolcatian government itself, in its stubborn and arrogant nature, became more focused on internal control than an outward expansion. However, the Wolcatians went above and beyond to ensure their evil nature is carried out. Picture this, Hethron Farm. It's a small Cascadian farm not too distant from the border with Wolcatia. The family is peaceful and kind, always known for their generosity. Then, some random Wolcatian extremists take over the farm and rape its inhabitants before completely burning it down. Of course, international outrage begins. UN leaders condemn Wolcatia for its aggression, and President George Wallace of Cascadia speaks.
I seek to deliver this message to Emperor Frederick of Wolcatia. If you're a people's kingdom, how come you don't accept democratic reform? If you're truly modern and civilized, how come you refuse to change your outdated religion of thorax faith? If you seek to turn your colonial empire into a federation of equals, how come your army is sent against freedom fighters in the Philippines? And if you truly wish peace, order, and justice throughout the world, how come you bombed our Hethron farm?
The Wolcatian response was filled with naysaying, attacking the UN for a supposedly biased investigation of the Hethron Farm incident. Such a claim is a classic response from authoritarian regimes. They attack the legitimacy of international organizations who know better, rather than owning up to their heinous acts. Because of this, George Wallace released an ultimatum on Wolcatia.
In order for Wolcatia to be taken seriously, they will have to do three things: decolonize, democratize, and demilitarize. First, decolonization. Wolcatia will have to give up all of the land it stole from the natives. This also includes returning the supposed southern corridors and Narst land to our control. Second, democratize. Wolcatia must allow all of its citizens to vote, and you, Emperor Frederick, must acknowledge that the evolved faith is a legitimate sect of thorax faith. Finally, you must demilitarize, making your army, air force, and navy a force only for self-defense purposes. This way, we will know if you have truly committed yourself to atonement and peace.
Wolcatia's arrogant refusal provoked war against Cascadia. The Cascadians started this war easily, bombing Wolcatia during one of its most sacred religious holidays. This move, made to demoralize the Wolcatian nation and achieve a quick surrender, quickly backfired when the Wolcatians showed exactly how fanatic they were. This perceived insult to their religion mobilized the Wolcatians like rabid dogs, as the Wolcatian armed forces quickly began to take even some territory within Cascadia. Even though this conquest of territory was short, the Wolcatians behaved with malice towards the local population, subjecting the children in the region to forced adoption. Meanwhile, the Wolcatian attack into Atlantica was swift and rough. The Wolcatian Imperial Liberation Army's advances were uninterrupted by the underprepared Atlantican military, leading to the surrender of Atlantica's president, Richard Nixon. However, a military coup d'etat occurred in Atlantica, forcing Nixon into exile in Virginia and leading to a stalemate as the Cascadian military prevented a total collapse in the Atlantican front. Now, let's talk about the home front. Life within Cascadia and Ethnopiana was relatively stable and unaffected, as even the worst of the Wolcodians did keep the place stable, orderly, and clean. However, this is where competent journalism got a chance to shine. This story was seen as what it was, a true David and Goliath story, if there ever was one. First, accurate and striking depictions were relayed at Wolcotian society, critiquing everything from its art and culture to its backward sense of religious law, replacing progressive morals. A new flag was designed for Wolcotia, one containing a simple tricolor without any symbols of strength, power, or royalty. Any positive description of Wolcotia had to associate the country with this flag, and even Wolcotian athletes in the Olympics were forced to use this flag if they wanted to compete. Along with this, depictions of daily life in Wolcotia showed fanatic priests ordering the death of millions, music from former centuries on the loudspeakers, and a militaristic society of fanatics prepared to do whatever they could to eliminate our freedom. Some within this conflict unfortunately supported the Wolcotians due to perceived bias in the news. These people wanted the media to take a strictly neutral stance on the war and allow people to independently come to their conclusions on which side is right and which side is wrong. However, it is more important to take an honest and critical stance on the war rather than strictly a neutral one. What truly turned the tides in this war was Ethnopiana's entry. The Federal Socialist Republic initially did not want to get itself involved in the conflict, due to fear of having a lesser-equipped military. However, the years of fighting between the Wolcodians, Atlanticans, and Cascadians have exhausted the Wolcodians just enough for them to be distracted and blocked from an Ethnopianan assault. Thus, that is what we have done. It was a long battle to take the southern corridors. Wolcodians took every chance they got to make life hell for our liberating army. First, they stood in stark imperial battle formations. Then they turned into guerrillas. And finally, they turned into city-based fanatics, throwing tables and chairs at our soldiers just to make a dent into our liberation. What was supposed to take a week ended up taking 6 months. But for us, it could have taken 10 years without losing its worth. For we fought not for mere gold or land, but for the principles of freedom and democracy. Finally, the weight of the world came crashing down on the Wolcodians. The free nations of Ethnopiana, Cascadia, and Atlantica established landings on the Wolcodian mainland, deeply threatening their peace. The Wolcodian response was fanatic, believing human wave assaults could prevent our victory. However, every human wave the Wolcodians sent was met with superior firepower and technology, crushing the Wolcodians before they could even make it to the battlefield. However, this was not enough for us to fully win the war. Wolcotia is a large country whose rightful territory is about the size of Brazil, not even including its powerful colonial empire. The Wolcodians could eventually outproduce us, slowly taking back their territory and showing us exactly why they are an empire. Besides, at that time, the Wolcodian population was larger than the populations of our countries combined. For that reason, we had to declare peace with the Wolcodians, not as a part of Wolcotian surrender, but on equal terms.
Our peace with the Wolcodians was clear and simple: the end of their colonial empire and transference of disputed and overseas territories to us in exchange for peace. Even though the Wolcodians kept their military and limited vision of strength, they were still limited by international agreements and a clear and united vision for the future, one in which democracy was guaranteed its triumph. To go back to my earlier quote about the nature of empires, let it be known that this did indeed happen to a nation like Wolcotia. Its perceived righteousness fell in the blink of an eye as the burning star of its empire exploded in a supernova to turn it into a white dwarf. However, there is a new Wolcotian star ready to shine, one of a burgeoning democracy that shall surely form by itself in the next couple of decades. All hail Ethnopiana and omnes super una.